Hello, amazing financiers. My name is Roland. I'm the finance manager for AIESEC International 1819, and hereby I would like to welcome you to the global education webinars that are going to be running this week and the upcoming week as well. And today we're going to kick it off with the first session about the legality checklist. And this is specifically about legality within the finance standards. So I'm going to try and keep it super basic today, very simple, because for me, that is what legality is. It doesn't need to be very complex because, of course, the law in itself is already complex enough. So I want to keep this as simple as possible so you guys know how you can take this forward and how you can make sure to have your entity completely legally compliant. Amazing. So again, my name is Roland. Here you can also find my contact information. So if you want to reach out to me for any questions regarding legality specifically for now, or with any other questions related to finances, I'm here to help and you can always reach out to me. Just a little bit about myself. I started my journey as a financier on the local chapter as an LCVP finance. Then I moved on to become the MCVP finance of AIESEC in the Netherlands. This was in the last term in 17-18, and this year, as I said before, I'm the global finance manager for AIESEC International. I'm very honored to be talking to you today about the legality specifically. Amazing. So just to go into the summary. So first I'm going to dive into actually what does legality mean in the context of AIESEC, because of course legality is a very big word. So I want to specify what do we mean in AIESEC with legality and how do we make sure that we are actually legal as an entity. And then I want to talk to you a bit about why did we change, because maybe if you were also a financier last year, you know that the legality checklist has changed within the context of the finance center. And I also want to talk to you about why did we change and what do these new changes mean. So thirdly, I'm going to show you the checklist for 1819, and I'm going to dive into a couple specific checklist items to talk to them specifically, because those are the ones that are either new or are the ones that are the least implemented in the network. So I just want to highlight them and make sure that we have action items to start implementing them. And then at the end of the day, you can ask me any questions and I'll be here to give you the answers. And again, if you want to reach out to me at a later point, that is also possible. You can find my contact information in the previous slide. Amazing. So just what is legality? What is this whole concept that we're going to be talking about today? So there's 4 things that I would like to highlight. What does legality mean? It's about operating and behaving according to the national law, because legality is very different in every entity because you operate under a different national law. So this means that you have to use the right work permits for foreign MC members, foreign GT interns. You have to report to fiscal authorities. You need to sign contracts for our exchange partners and our exchange participants. And then secondly, it's about operating and behaving according to the global compendium. Because even though we are all in under different national laws, we need to make sure that there's also an international governance system, and this is done under the global compendium. So this is fulfilling the global membership criteria and making sure that there's democratic elections for the MC. Then thirdly, it's about establishing internal governance and following it. So this is where I first talked about the global compendium. You also need to make sure that there's a national compendium and that the LCP and the EB elections happen within the LCs to ensure that also on the national level, there's democratic processes in place. And finally, it's ensuring that we have external legal advice to protect our entities and the brand by having a pro bono lawyer, an in-house lawyer, or a lawyer in your board of advisor. Because at the end of the day, I will talk to you today about legality, but it's very difficult for me to talk about the different nations and the different national laws and to actually say, okay, how can you be legal in your entity, in your country, in your territory? Because this is not possible for me to know. So the biggest recommendation from my side is always to have external legal advice to know 100% sure that you're operating legally in your entity. Okay, so now I want to talk to you first before we go into the checklist item. Why did we even change the checklist item? Because when the finance standards were first created, there was a bunch of checklist items that fell under legality. And we said that if you complete these checklist items, then you are legal as an entity. But what we realized over the past two terms was that even though there were entities that had 100% legality in the finance centers, they were still facing legal issues with their governments, with audits, with whatever. And so we decided to dive into the checklist items again and actually see, okay, if we revise them, what are the things that we forgot or maybe that have changed according to the global context that now need to be established as well in order for an entity to be legal. So this is how it used to look like before. So these are the different checklist items. We needed to make sure that we have a compendium and a constitution for our entity. Every MC needed to have a legal representative. The global membership criteria needed to be fulfilled by the MC. The entity membership criteria had to be set up for LCs. An entity had to have a legal registration under their government. They needed to have a defined tax status. Their trademark had to be registered. For every exchange that was being done, there needed to be signed a contract. Then for every partner or sponsorship, there also needs to be a contract just to make sure that it is all documented, it's all legal in that sense. And when we send people abroad and when we actually receive interns and international MC members, we need to make sure that they have proper visas. And finally, it was what I also said before, it's about having that professional legal advice to make sure that even though what we say in this checklist, and if you believe you have completed it, we still want to make sure that you have professional legal advice as well to ensure that you're 100% legal. So what is actually the things that we noticed that were still going wrong? Because as you can see here, it already encompasses a lot, and it already makes sure that you are legal in a big manner. But still, there were some things that we noticed that were not going well. So I just want to show you also the new checklist items and describe to you, okay, why did we actually have them here, and why is it important for you to also focus up on them? So you can see with the stars, the ones that are added. And firstly, it's a legal registration for MC and LCs. So before we just said legal registration for the entity, but what we noticed that for many LCs actually, they were facing struggles with either the government or municipalities who just came in and were able to close down the LC because there was no legal registration, no legal document, whatever, that actually established that LC. So for this, you need to make sure that your LC is actually legally registered. And this can also be under your university with a memorandum of understanding. It can be legally registered under your MC as part of the entity, but you need to make sure that you have a document that actually establishes your LC as an existing organization. Then next to your tax status that needs to be defined, your tax status also needs to be paid. Because what we realized before is that we saw that people did indeed define their tax status, but still they weren't paying their tax status and they had huge debts with the government, which caused them huge issues. Then for visas, we actually split it up and we said, okay, firstly, we need to make sure that we have visa for customers. So for every intern, we need to make sure that we have a proper visa. And secondly, we also need to make sure that if we have international MC members, that they also have a proper visa. And very often I get the question, okay, what does it mean? What is a proper visa? And again, I cannot tell you what is a proper visa within your national law. The only thing I can tell you is that think for yourself. If the government would come into your office and they would ask you for the visa for the international MC members and you would provide them something, and by providing them that something, it would not be enough, they would actually say, okay, they have to leave the country, then the visa is not good enough. But again, I really recommend you to sit down with your lawyer as well, because they will actually be able to help you to find out what is a proper visa that I have to provide for my international MC members and for my customers. Then we also added the risk and legal matrix, which was already existent in the term of 1718, but now we made sure that it also falls under the finance standards. And in the next part, I'm actually going to talk to you about what is the risk and legal matrix. But before, I also want to dive into some of the other checklist items. So the legal registration for the entity, which is still the same. You need to make sure that there's a copy of an official document which establishes AIESEC in the country or territory. But next to this, you want to have also a legal registration for the LCs. And this is just a copy of an official document which establish the LC as a legal organization. This can be affiliated with the MC, so it doesn't need to be an independent legal registration organization, but it needs to be a document that actually establishes the LC. Again, the tax status doesn't just need to be defined, it also needs to be paid. Then the visas for the customers. I'm just going to give the examples here that the IGV intern should have volunteering visa instead of a tourist visa. If the law of your country has a volunteering visa and says that when people want to volunteer in the country, they need this visa, then you need to make sure that they have this proper visa. And visas for international MC members, we need to make sure that our international MC members have a work visa, or at least a visa in which they can work in your entity. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that at the middle of the term, there's not just international MC members that have to leave the country because they're not legally there. If you hire someone on your team, you also want to make sure that they can stay there for the long haul and that you can guarantee them that they're legally residing in your country. And now going into the risk and legal matrix, I don't want to dive too deep into it because there's actually a whole session, the next session dedicated to this. Just want to highlight one big thing, GDPR. Because GDPR is not just something that if you change something today, you have GDPR implemented tomorrow. It's actually a very big thing. So I also recommend you to go to the GDPR dashboard that you find the link for on this page. And in there, you can also find some different links to educational materials if you're very clueless about okay, what is this whole GDPR? But I also recommend you to go to the next session and to hear there specifically more about GDPR and how you can make sure that this is also implemented to be legally compliant for your entity. And then actually talking about the current state. So what these numbers are from the finance standards, from the GFB survey of August, and they are the average of the global state of implementation of legality. So you can see that overall 84.81% is implemented. This is with the new checklist items. So you can see at the end of last term, this number was actually higher. Here you can see that Europe and Americas are the highest performance in terms of legality. But at the end of the day, even though we have as global average 84.81%, which seems pretty high with Americas and Europe both being at 89%, I just want to highlight one thing, and that's we need to be real, and when being 100% legal has to be non-negotiable. Because at the end of the day, if you are not legally operating, you run the risks of every single day the government stepping into your office and shutting down your operations. So if you're not 100% legal, every single day, you need to sort of be aware that the government can come in and stop whatever you're doing. So in order to turn this around, you need to stop whatever you're doing and make sure that you're 100%. And this is the strongest call to action that I want to give to you. Review for your entity, review for your LC, review for your MC. Are you at this current state in time 100% legal? If not, what will you do today? What will you make sure that you change tomorrow to be 100% legal? Because if you're not, you run the risk that every single day the government can step in and stop your operations. Thank you very much for being here with me. And now I'd like to ask you to, if you have any questions, just ask them. I'm right now still also looking at this live feed, and I'm here to answer your questions. If you're watching this session at a later stage in time, then feel free to just use my contact information and also reach out to me, which again, you will find here. My name, my function, my mail address, and my phone number. So however you would like to get in touch with me, feel free to do so, because for me, this is a big priority, making sure that every single entity in the global network is 100% legal. So if you feel that you don't have the education for this, that you don't feel sure on how to implement this, reach out to me and I'd always be glad to help you. So thank you for being with me on the first session of the Global Education webinars. Hope it was simple, hope it was useful, hope you have a strong call to action now, and I invite you to also attend the next webinars. Have a great day.